Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. Talk about Blu-rays here and physical media in general. But we do like to run down, at least make you aware of some of the stuff that's coming out from the plethora of partner labels over at Vinegar Syndrome. I've got a couple months worth of stuff to run through here, so bear with me, but let's start with a little something from AGFA. This is Wildman Steve in Super Soul Brother and the films of Rene Martinez Jr. Now, these are fascinating and fun films that are really in their own world. You know, ultimately, not a lot of films quite like them. In terms of the little rundown here, Let's Get Wild. Super Soul Brother and the films of Rene Martinez Jr. collects the anti-dimensional filmography of enigmatic Miami-based DIY filmmaker Martinez for the first time on home video. In Super Soul Brother 1978, naive wino Steve, that's Wildman Steve Gallen from Petey Wheatstraw apparently, is injected with a serum that gives him superhuman strength, a catchphrase, "I'm wild," and a quest to battle the mad scientists and crooks who made it all possible. Now, also included is The Guy from Harlem, 1977, and that finds gritty private investigator Al Connor's Loy Hawkins locked in mortal combat with crime kingpin Big Daddy in an explosion of cocaine, kung fu, and funk jams. And finally, Road of Death, this is the third film included, from 1973, follows local rockers, the Joe Banana Band, and friends, including Carol Connors and Jack Birch, future parents of Thora Ghostworld Birch, as they seek revenge against a biker gang for their hideous crimes, complete with a shocking climax that predicts the final scene in Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof, only in Florida. So, I had seen Super Soul Brother. AGFA put that out on DVD some years ago, and it is just, for lack of a better word, it is just wild. In that kind of Dolomite area is where we're living, basically, and it's just incredibly entertaining. It is not a Hollywood product by any stretch of the imagination. It is truly an auteur's world, if you will, with Rene Martinez Jr. And Wildman Steve is pretty unforgettable in the title role. And that guy from Harlem, I remember being similarly, DIY, as they put it, but with, some crazy fight scenes and just, again, sort of Dolomite adjacent, but super fun and backyard filmmaking kind of style. And it's just the kind of stuff that I've been a little bit more into recently, this sort of regional, one-of-a-kind filmmaking that is outside the mainstream by a long stretch and doing exactly what it wants to do and just not really caring what you think, I found a lot of fun regional films that way, and I feel like despite the democratization of filmmaking we have now, where you can shoot on an iPhone and all the things you hear, I guess I just don't feel like at least I don't see quite the same fun regional filmmaking, and maybe it's just not finding its way to, maybe it's just on YouTube somewhere. I'm sure that it probably is, it's just not finding its way to drive-ins or anything like that because we don't have those outlets anymore. But Road of Death I've never seen. Sounds fascinating. I do, as I've said before, love it when AGFA collects multiple films, or, as we'll see in a second, short films. Just gives you a really interesting overview of a less known filmmaker like Rene Martinez Jr. So this also has a wild 35mm trailer reel from the AGFA vaults, and I think that's it. I don't think there's any commentaries or anything, but it's 234 minutes, and it's all region, and it has some postcards. Tell It Like It Is Club. This just gives you, I think this is from that guy from Harlem, right? Or maybe not. This gives you an idea, like the mise en scène of these sort of films, you know. But yeah, I was excited that this was getting a Blu-ray. I did love seeing Super Soul Brother on DVD. Now we have it on Blu-ray. Very nice. Good stuff. Okay, so now we have Mary Jane's Not a Virgin Anymore, the films of Sarah Jacobson. And I know what you're saying, which is what I was saying, is like, wait a minute. Didn't they already put this out? And the trick is that, yes, they did, sort of. So, like, they put out a collection that had Mary Jane's Not a Virgin Anymore from Sarah Jacobson. I'll kind of go through this in reverse order in a second. It had the 27-minute short, I Was a Teenage Serial Killer. Now, those are included here. But it also had some shorts from Sarah Jacobson. And, okay, so I'm just looking at the back of the old release, and it says brand new 2K preservations from the only 60mm film elements in existence, rare shorts and music videos by Sarah Jacobson, liner notes by Alicia Combs of AGFA and Annie Choi of Bleeding Skull. Now, that was 125 minutes combined. This new disc is considerably more. It is, I want to say, 192 minutes combined. So you're getting a lot more material here, and they're very specific about, well, okay, let's just start from the top. So Sarah Jacobson, punk-spirited DIY filmmaker from the 1990s, and her films combine B-movie aesthetics and riot girl feminism, standing as a testament to the vision, determination, and raw talent of the, quote, queen of underground cinema. Mary Jane's Not a Virgin Anymore, Jacobson's only feature film, is a vibrant and vital antidote to every phony Hollywood teen picture, bringing lo-fi realness to the coming-of-age genre. I Was a Teenage Serial Killer, Jacobson's underground sensation, is Slacker meets Valerie Solanas as a woman responds to catcalls, condescension, and bad sex the only way she knows how, murder. And it says that taking on every major film, every major role of filmmaking from production through distribution, Sarah Jacobson was a rule breaker, finding fans in filmmakers Allison Anders, Tamara Davis, as well as Kim Gordon of Sonic Youth. So she definitely has a following. Now, as I said, they put something out before, but we've got a lot more stuff here. So does it mention... It doesn't mention that 16mm transfer again, but I would assume that's what we're drawing from. Oh, here we go. Region Free, Mary Jane's Not a Virgin Anymore, 1996, 95 minutes, and I Was a Teenage Serial Killer, 1993, 25 minutes, preserved from the only 16mm elements in existence. I Was a Teenage Serial Killer now has a commentary with Kristen Calabrese and Bleeding Skull's Annie Choi. I don't think that was on the original. Let me just double check if that was... No, I think that's new. I think that is new to this disc. Yep. So that's cool. So we get that commentary. And then we get a bunch of shorts. Sweet Miss, The Disco Years, 1988. Road Movie, or What I Learned in a Buick Station Wagon from 1991. Spheric Waves from 1996. Technicolor Yawn from 1996. The Making of Ladies and Gentlemen Fabulous Stains from 2000. Very exciting to check that out. Obviously, again, that sort of underground connection totally makes sense that she'd be a fan of Fabulous Stains. Bra Shopping, 2002. That's all the shorts included here, so a bunch. Ephemera Gallery, and then, of course, we have a booklet with writing from filmmaker Allison Anders, Annie Choi, and AGFA's Alicia Coombs. So the book now even has additional material because it has Allison Anders in addition to Annie Choi and Alicia Coombs. So very cool. This is like, I guess, sort of a reissue, but they've really amped it up and made it a much more complete look at her filmography, which is great. I do remember checking this out on the other Blu-ray and being impressed with her stuff. Okay, this is really exciting. We have from Dekanalog, That Guy Dick Miller, which is one of my favorite documentaries in the last decade or so. I think it came out. When did it come out? It came out in 2014, so just under the wire for a decade. And I mean, if you don't know Dick Miller, I don't know what to tell you. He's one of the great character actors of all time and one of my favorites. And I just adore him. I adore that he was a regular in both Roger Corman films, where he sort of found his way, and Joe Dante. And of course, there's a connection there, as Joe Dante worked with Corman and was connected to Dick, I think, through that. But it is just a wonderful documentary, incredibly energetic, really well put together, directed by Elijah Drenner, friend of the channel, Elijah Drenner. He's been on here before. You can go back and see some interviews I've done with him. But, you know, Elijah has done things like American Grindhouse, and he's done a whole bunch of stuff for Vinegar Syndrome, actually, in terms of, you know, making of documentaries like the Beastmaster Chronicles. He did Vegas Needs a New King, the making of Six String Samurai. He did Evolutions, the making of Phase 4. These were all part of the Vinegar Syndrome discs. Under the Skin, the making of Ticks. These are all part of like the 4Ks, actually. He did the Against the Grain documentary that came with the Lost Films collection from Vinegar Syndrome. And then, you know, he did things for Arrow, too, like Making of Brain Damage, The Hatching of Spider Baby. Another one for Vinegar Syndrome, The Making of Psycho Cop Returns. He's just done a ton of this stuff. I mean, this is just some of the higher profile stuff, but he's done a ton of it. He's got quite a knack for this kind of documentary filmmaking, but I really love this one in particular because, yeah, like I said, I love Dick Miller, but it's a great showcase for not only Dick when he was alive in 2014 or whenever the film was made. You know, you get to see him and his wife Lainey, and they are adorable, and he is great just to see in the present day. But it's incredible to see just how many films he was in. Sometimes he's playing. I feel like there's a movie where he's playing, you know, in the background of soldiers fighting against himself. Like he's actually shooting at himself at one point. Just that how much he was used. But it does show some of his better performances that are a little underseen, like Rock All Night. War of the Satellites, I think, is pretty fun, and I wouldn't have seen it if not for this movie. So it's a great way to find some Dick Miller performances that maybe you don't know as well, you know, besides like Bucket of Blood and things like that. But it's just a great documentary, and I'm so excited to finally have a Blu-ray of it. I'll just read their little thing here. Dick Miller was the last of the great American character actors. Whether he was sharing the screen with Nicholson, De Niro, Schwarzenegger, or the Ramones, Dick has been stealing scenes since his screen debut in 1955. Every moviegoer knows his face, but few know his name, and even fewer know his story. An aspiring writer turned accidental actor. Dekanalog is proud to present the 10th anniversary special edition Blu-ray for the first time in the U.S., loaded with special features and a special bonus film, Star Hops, 1978, directed by Barbara Peters and featuring Dick Miller in what else? A scene-stealing supporting role. So that is super cool. You get Star Hops, which I don't think had been. I don't know if that even has a DVD. That's one that I feel like I've seen on some YouTube rip somewhere. Does it have a DVD? I don't think so. That's exciting. That's exciting stuff. So I love bonus films. I always think that's a great feature to have. Anyway, so this includes an audio commentary with director Elijah Drenner, producer Lainey Miller, that's of course Dick's widow, and cinematographer Elle Schneider, and a selection of Dick's home movies, outtakes, Los Angeles premiere footage, that special bonus film, directed by Barbara Peters. Brand new 2K transfer from the original uncut camera negative available for the first time on Blu-ray. And a booklet essay by Callum Watsendal, author of You Don't Know Me, But You Love Me, The Lives of Dick Miller, which is something I have to get. Introductions from Elijah Drenner and Lainey Miller also. So quite a nice special edition, and I totally missed the bonus film, which I may want to watch tonight even. I can't remember if I've seen the whole thing or not. But anyway, great that that's there, and this is my highest recommendation. In fact, this is probably going to be on my list of favorite releases of the year, just because I love the doc so much, and it has that extra movie, and it's just a really nice set. So that's that. Okay. Also, from Dekanalog, we have, and I haven't been able to check out all these. I do apologize, but I do like to make you guys aware of them nonetheless. This is called SEPA, Our Lord of Miracles, and it is from 1987. And it is, let's see here, Nuestro Señor de los Milagros, Our Lord of the Miracles, is the name of the swamp-glittering prison colony in remote Peruvian jungle on Rio Sepa. This is the dumping ground where the worst prisons in the country send their toughest of the tough. A bizarre island of freedom where tragedy and absurdity create a close in-world seemingly invented from feverish dreams. Here are murderers who survived the taking of hostages and subsequent massacre at Lurigancho prison, documented in the film, and prisoners who have done 8 years extra time simply because their release papers were lost. There is one who fought his way from the highlands on foot, taking weeks to get here to serve his sentence. There is also a headhunter, a drug boss, and El Invisible, the Invisible One, the 65-year-old half-deaf prison director, Don Elias, in tropical clothing and wearing a straw hat, calls them Miss Angelitos, my little angels. I guess that's a quote from Werner Herzog. The whole thing I just read. Having languished in a closet for more than 30 years, this newly rediscovered film is a unique documentary record of bold and troubling experimental criminal justice, a collaboration between Walter Saxer, the producer of Werner Herzog's Fitzcarraldo, and the Peruvian Nobel laureate Mario Vargas Llosa. SEPA, Our Lord of Miracles, observes an open-air penal colony of the same name, created in 1951 by the Peruvian government, and in the Amazonian jungle. Tasked with growing crops on these colonized land, the inmates were permitted to roam freely, commune with their families, and dance and cook together, yet they soon found themselves in despair, abandoned and forgotten by their country and the world at large. Restored in 4K by the Cinematheque Suisse and Cineteca de Bologna in collaboration with the Ministerio de Cultura del Peru at the Lamagin Ricciavata Laboratory, starting from the original 16 camera negative and the sound preserved by Yakamama Films. Directed by Walter Saxer, 1987, 79 minutes, 133-1, Spanish, English, German. Okay, so region free, as is that guy Dick Miller, by the way. Let's see, 2 audience Q&As with filmmaker Walter Saxer and daughter Michaela Saxer at Metrograph, New York, October 2022. New interview with filmmaker Walter Saxer recorded at Casa Fitzcarraldo, Iquitos, Peru. Theatrical trailer, booklet including introduction by Werner Herzog, booklet essay by Michaela Saxer. So a very nice set. I do remember hearing about this doc and being fascinated and having no way to find it at the time I heard about it, which could have been a couple years ago. Could have been when it played the Metrograph. But this is obviously a really nice release of this film and a documentary that sounds right up my alley and very fascinating stuff. And that is another one from Dekanalog. Now, moving on to Canadian International Pictures, one of the better labels that is part of this group, we have Sweet Substitute, filmed by Larry Kent from 1964. And there's a little quote here from Adam Agoyan. Larry Kent was very important to me. Those early films were so ahead of their time. That's a very nice ringing endorsement from a great filmmaker. Busy navigating his final year of high school, brainy aspiring teacher Tom, waiting for Carolyn's Robert Howe, is determined to land an elusive scholarship, but his hard work is constantly interrupted by his real obsession pursuing the opposite sex. Before long, he develops a romance with former classmate Elaine, the boy who could fly's Angela Gann, who persistently declines his sexual advances. This inspires Tom to consider other options, including his good-natured study buddy Kathy, that's Carol Pastinsky. But when they take their friendship to the next level, shocking complications threaten to derail Tom's future, inspiring his friends to take drastic action. In the wake of the bitter ash and the censorship battles it inspired, director Larry Kent returned with this more playful but no less provocative sophomore effort. Of course, Bitter Ash has been put out by CIP. Let's see here. An intoxicating blend of carefree sex comedy and unsparing coming-of-age drama, Sweet Substitute plays like a hedonistic reimagining of the same year's Nobody Waved Goodbye, aimed at the exploitation film market. A surprise success in the U.S. under the title Caressed, it set the stage for Kent's next leap forward with When Tomorrow Dies, the third and final entry in this Vancouver trilogy, and I'll actually talk about that in a second. Yeah, I do love, again, Canadian International Pictures just does wonderful releases, and they're digging up films that I have never heard of all the time. It's crazy. I've talking to Elric about this and maybe somebody else. I think we were talking in relation to a screening we had done of Devil at Your Heels, which hopefully will come out from Canadian International Pictures in the next year or so, now that there's a restoration out there. Great documentary, by the way. And so I was just talking about Canadian films and how much I've missed. Like, how many are just completely off my radar, and whether that be because they weren't as well represented on home video here in the States, or, who knows what. But it's all new discoveries for me in terms of a lot of what they're doing, and I love that. But they also just do really great releases. So this is a Region A Blu-ray. It's newly scanned and restored in 4K from the original 16mm AB camera negatives by Canadian International Pictures, with sound transferred from the original 16mm magnetic final mix. New audio commentary featuring Paul Korup of Canucksploitation.com and film historian Jason Pachonsky. I have no doubt that'll be a good track. Archival audio commentary featuring film professor David Douglas. New introduction to Sweet Substitute by Larry Kent. Sweet and Sour, 2024, 10 minutes. New interview with Kent. Not Quite Liberated, 17-minute new interview with Douglas. New audio interview with actor Larry Beckman, 6 minutes. The Caressed Cut, that's brand new, 6 minutes. All the material added to the American release of Sweet Substitute, including the notorious striptease sequence. Fantasia Artist Talk, this is from last year, 81 minutes, conversation with Kent, moderated by Douglas, and archival audio interview with Kent from 1964, 11 minutes. And a booklet featuring a new motion picture Purgatory comic strip by Rick Trembles, and an interview with graphic artist Sonia Arnson, plus reversible cover art. So just, the sort of ideal of a collector's special edition release from them. And then this new one, of course, finishing out that trilogy, When Tomorrow Dies, also Larry Kent, of course. And from one of the folks at TIFF, Pierce Handling, a genuine cinematic gem, groundbreaking. Frustrated housewife Gwen James, Rabbids Patricia Gage feels like more than a servant to her accountant husband, Strange Brews Douglas Campbell, and two daughters, devoting all her time to their needs and the demands of her cantankerous father, she feels the sense of self-worth slipping. As Gwen wrestles with the increasingly despairing thoughts, she escapes into a world of glamorous fantasy and eventually finds a new sense of purpose, enrolling in a university course where she strikes up a special bond with her young professor, American Nightmare's Dee Danger. But as Gwen reverts to a more youthful, carefree state, her family descends into chaos. Arriving on the heels of The Bitter Ash and Sweet Substitute, When Tomorrow Dies concluded Larry Kent's Vancouver trilogy with a vivid sense of style and daring. Working with a larger budget and more seasoned crew, the director fused elements of film noir and the Hollywood melodrama to deliver a lurid yet compassionate investigation of the housewife's psyche, applying Kent's preoccupation with useful disaffection to an older generation. When Tomorrow Dies brought new depth to his approach and cemented his reputation as a maverick of Canadian independent filmmaking. I was going to say, this sounds a little bit like Diary of a Mad Housewife, which comes out later. This is 65. That was, I think, 71. Slightly different, but does sound very similar, and I think that's a really interesting film. So this immediately intrigues me. 1965, 89 minutes, and it is 137:1, and newly scanned and restored in 4K from the original 16mm AB negatives by Canadian International Pictures, with sound transferred from the original 16mm magnetic vinyl mix. New audio commentary featuring film historian and author Sam Deegan. Always quality. Archival audio commentary by film professor Peter Rist. New introduction to When Tomorrow Dies by Larry Kent. Tomorrow Lives, 9-minute new interview with Kent. Independent Evolution, an 18-minute new interview with film professor David Douglas. And new audio interview with Heather Whitehead, daughter of star Patricia Gage. That's a 9-minute brand new interview. Kent on Kent, 1965 to 67, 20 minutes archival audio interviews with Kent. Mother and Daughters, 1993, 85 minutes. Little scene Kent feature exploring some of the same themes as When Tomorrow Dies. So we get a bonus film, which, I love. New introduction to Mothers and Daughters by Douglas. Booklet essay featuring a new essay by film critic and Professor Tom McSorley, and reversible cover art. So, again, cool that the releases are great. I do love the continuity that they're going for. It's a very neat thing to have a completed trilogy like this. But they've done that sort of multiple times, where they've taken different films from specific Canadian filmmakers and released them. And I just think that's a great sort of continuity to have between releases. Really cool stuff. So that is When Tomorrow Dies. Next up, we have a brand new movie starring Rachel Sennett, directed by Ali Pankow, called I Used to Be Funny. In this one, I Used to Be Funny is a dark dramedy that follows Sam Cowell, Rachel Sennett, an aspiring stand-up comedian and au pair, struggling with PTSD as she decides whether or not to join the search for Brooke, Olga Petsa, a missing teenage girl she used to nanny. The story exists between the present, where Sam tries to recover from her trauma and get back on stage, and the past, where memories of Brooke make it harder and harder to ignore the troubled teen's sudden disappearance. Writer-director Ali Pankow's debut feature is both funny and heartbreaking in its honest and refreshing look at trauma and recovery and how they affect the relationships and communities that shape us. Now, I don't want to spoil anything either, but obviously the back of this is trying to avoid talking about her trauma, and that is kind of one of the key things of the film. She's a stand-up comic. She is funny. I'm a Rachel Sennett fan, and I enjoyed her in this performance. It's not, it's a funny performance, but it's a dramedy is a good word, but more drama. I mean, it's showing Rachel Sennett's chops as a dramatic actor with flourishes of humor. But it's neat to see her behind the scenes, talking to her stand-up comic friends, there's some good folks in here that are pretty funny as well. You sort of get to see that milieu of the backstage at the, not open mic, but like stand-up shows that are a little smaller, and it's just a neat world to live in. But so she's stopped doing comedy, and it's connected to her trauma. And I'm not going to go into it either, but it is slowly revealed throughout the film, and it is a little bit intense when it does finally fully reveal itself. But again, a great performance and an interesting film from this year, I thought. So this is a Region A Blu-ray, and it includes an audio commentary by director Ali Panku, which I would be very curious to hear. Very curious about the process of this film and maybe some influences, anything that she could offer up. But a nice performance from Rachel Sennett. So definitely worth your time and worth checking out. That's from Utopia. Also from Utopia, we have Omen, which is also from 2023. It's directed by Balogi. Following Kofi's return to his birthplace after he has been ostracized by his family, Omen explores the weight of beliefs on one's destiny through 4 characters accused of being witches and sorcerers, all of them intertwined and guiding each other into the phantasmagoria of Africa. This is a film, I guess, is primarily in French, starring Mark Zinga, Lucy DeBay, Elaine Umihire, Yves Marina Ganawa, and Marcel Otet Cabella. Region A Blu-ray has a BTS stills gallery, Balogi's short film Infinite Trolling, another one called Zombie, and a third called Peau de Chagrin. So you get a little peek at this filmmaker, who I'm not familiar with, honestly. But this cover is certainly intriguing, and that premise is intriguing. Borderline horror, it sounds like, in some ways. So it's got my attention. But one of the things I do like about these labels is they are putting out old stuff, but they're also putting out some newer stuff that just completely slipped by me. And I don't think I heard this one talked about before. I may have, maybe. But anyway, I haven't seen it, and Utopia doing a lot of newer stuff, and a lot of interesting newer stuff at that. Okay, next we have from Enjoy the Ride, we have Dee Danger. Dee Danger from Enjoy the Ride Media is a music-driven cyberpunk thriller. This is from 2022. Speaking of new films, about a hard-rocking singer coerced into becoming an electronically enhanced new music diva by her high-tech billionaire patron. Set in the near future, her singing voice is used to control and energize the brains of employees that are being used as external processors for the corporation's high-tech clients. Dee Danger explores the conflict between high-tech and high-touch, and what it means to be human in a digitally enhanced future. Directed by Robert McGinley, starring Molly Sides, Tim Gorin, Rachel Tegavila, Connor Nederson. 98 minutes, 178-1, region free, behind the scenes and production stills, and an interview with director McGinley. And that's it for that one, but totally not something I'm aware of, and in recent memory, one of the only narrative films that Enjoy the Ride has put out. They're mostly doing a lot of documentary stuff, which has been fun, but this is going to be an interesting departure, and I'm very curious about this one, for sure. But back to more of what they do, we have another one from ETR, A Fat Wreck, the Punkumentary. And this one is about Fat Records, the influential music label, proud to say they've spent the past 25 years ruining punk rock. A Fat Wreck tells the story of founders Fat Mike of the legendary band, punk band NoFX, and his wife Erin Kelly Burkett, spanning the birth, growth, struggles, and survival of the Fat Wreck Chords Label, half inspirational story of chosen family and community, half debauchery and occasionally involuntary drug use. A Fat Wreck blazes exciting new ground in the cinematic genre of puppet-driven punk rock music documentary filmmaking. If you only see one film featuring a dominatrix spanking a puppet in your lifetime, make it Fat Wreck. That's a good advice. Directed by Sean Michael Collin, starring Fat Mike Burkett, Aaron Burkett, Chris Shiflett, Joe Sib, Ryan Green, Joey Cape, Laura Jane Grace, Tim McLarath, Trevor Keith, Chris Hanna, Jim Lindberg, Jay Bentley, Mike Herrera, Axel Kurth, Kevin Lyman. 2024, 88 minutes, 239:1, widescreen. Region free, something called A Little Bit Fatter, Bonus Fat, Fatties, the Fat Wreck Chords subculture, A Fat Wreck in the Making, so obviously a making of documentary, 20 Hours to Get Raid, the first, full first Fat Mike interview, full second Fat Mike interview, full Aaron Burkett interview, and all the puppets extended and cut puppet scenes, as well as bonus, Fat, a new fatty from 2024. This is in English, and has puppets, which is kind of fascinating. So you have obviously some stand-up interviews with real folks, and then you have some stuff with puppets. I do like that idea very much as a documentary format. And again, I like what ETR has been doing in terms of these kind of more low-level, sometimes fan-made, sometimes very independently made documentaries. Very cool stuff. Lastly, we have from Saturn's Core. Always interesting stuff from Saturn's Core. We have Our World is Drowning and Going to Hell, the Underground Films of Richard Baylor. So this is what I was talking about in terms of, putting out a group or a collection of films to represent a filmmaker. And I feel like Saturn's Core may have done something a little bit like this, but maybe not quite on this scale, because this has got a lot of stuff here. Let's talk about this. So, exploring themes of isolation, suicide, voyeurism, murder, sexual aberrations, and the condemnation of organized religion, Michigan-born, UK-based filmmaker and provocateur Richard Baylor sent shockwaves through the repressive and censorious 90s British film scene with his subversive and button-pushing underground video works, drawing inspiration from the short and shocking films of Richard Kern, Nick Zedd, and their contemporaries from the New York cinema of the transgression scene. Baylor became an honorary member of the movement by creating similarly insurgent works on video in his native Ipswich, England, culling collaborators from the local punk rock and industrial noise communities and employing acting performances and soundtrack contributions from the members of Extreme Noise Terror, White Slug, and Optimum Wound Profile. After decades in the ether, Saturn's Core is proud to finally unleash the complete works of Richard Baylor, preserved and presented under the supervision of Baylor himself, and making their disc debut and long-awaited return to physical media since the tape trading and mail-order VHS days of the 1990s. The collection combines early unseen work, Our Own Personal Hell, Baylor's award-winning video anthologies, You Made Your Bed, Now Die in It, The Holy Trinity, and culminates with his magnum opus, the notorious serial killer rumination, Circeum Delectus, inspired by the real-life case of California's Sunset Strip killers Doug Clark and Carol Bundy. Accompanied by hours of special features, audio commentaries, a new 45-minute documentary, and a 28-page booklet, Our World is Drowning and Going to Hell, the Underground Films of Richard Baylor, is the ultimate descent into the disturbing milieu of the 90s most provocative and formerly uncharted video agitators. So that sounds like a really nice set. Collection of films from 1989 to 93, running a total of 114 minutes, 133:1. Region free, includes audio commentary throughout the entire Baylor filmography by film writer and publisher David Flint, audio commentary on Circeum Delectus by film writer Heather Drain, big fan of her as well, Staring into the Abyss, a new 2024 retrospective documentary featuring interviews with filmmaker Richard Baylor and collaborators Sophie Baylor, Lisa Carell, Jason Whitaker, and Richard Munn. Music video collection featuring clips from Extreme Noise Terror, Earth Mother Effer, The Brackish Edge, The Brothers of Hope and Despair. Sins of the Flesh, a 28-page booklet featuring writings by David Flint, Heather Drain, Ross Snyder, Hugh Gallagher, and Vincent Albarano. Very cool. Very cool set. This is going to be very exciting to dig into, I think. And then a little more of what they, I'm used to them doing. We have Flesh Freaks, which has a really cool slip cover. You can kind of get a sense of from some of these pictures on the back. Some crazy gore in Flesh Freaks, which is a movie I've never heard of. From 2000. Worm-like parasites infest the dead, returning them to gruesome half-life as rotting, bloodthirsty zombies. Freed from their jungle hell by a secret research expedition, the creatures soon find their way to modern civilization, where they begin their deadly mission to transform the human race into an unstoppable army of the undead. Will they succeed in their gory quest? Will the human race be completely wiped out? Can anyone survive the blood-soaked onslaught of the Flesh Freaks? In 1998, a teenage film fanatic named Canal Pendergast followed his parents to Belize to document their participation in a real-life Mayan archaeological dig. Stranded in a remote animal and insect-filled jungle, the aspiring filmmaker realized he had a great location on his hands to stage a DIY mini-DV zombie epic. The end result became Flesh Freaks, a micro-budget wonder shot in Central America and Toronto that's part Evil Dead, part mumblecore, and part tropical travelogue. A youthful and rudimentary eruption of slime, rubber monster masks, and geysers of fake blood, Flesh Freaks combines the madcap antics of Peter Jackson's Bad Taste, the exotic locales of Bruno Mattei's Hell of the Living Dead, and the gnarly putrefied zombie mayhem of Andrea Bianchi's Burial Ground, all filtered through the vision of a high-spirited, hyperactive high schooler. But that's not all. Flesh Freaks comes paired with the director's sophomore SOV feature, Kill Them and Eat Them, Pendergast's 2003 gore-soaked mutant Melee, which comes newly restored and accompanied by a wealth of extras of its own. So you have this region free. You have an audio commentary with writer-director Canal Pendergast, moderated by Justin DeClue of Gold Ninja Video. Check out Gold Ninja Video, by the way, if you haven't. I did a video about their stuff, but Justin's a one-man band over there and doing some really neat stuff with Gold Ninja. Archival commentary with writer-director Canal Pendergast. Kill and Eat the Flesh Freaks, an interview with writer-director Canal Pendergast, moderated by Justin DeClue. Outtakes, stills gallery, reversible sleeve, newly commissioned artwork. Bonus movie, Kill Them and Eat Them. Audio commentary with writer-director Canal Pendergast and actor Michael Wood, moderated by Justin DeClue of Gold Ninja. Monsters from the Cutting Room Floor featurette, obviously stuff that was cut out. Deleted scenes, and then we have a bunch of Canal Pendergast short films, including Flicker from 2001, Satan's Psycho Ghoul from 2001, Guts of the Gods from 2006, Legend of the Seven Bloody Torturers from 2007, The Cyclops Diet from 2000, Self-Actualization of the Werewolf Woman from 2021, and The Noonday Demon from 2023. So this is as much a collection of Canal Pendergast as this is of Richard Baylor. Two nice sort of back-to-back sets that really give you a sense of these filmmakers. Anyway, hats off to Saturns Core for those lovely releases. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I genuinely appreciate it, and I will talk to you very soon. Thanks again.